With the holiday season approaching, you decided to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, TheLaval, also known as the Power Tool Duelist, back for you, bringing you my guide on how to start getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! I see this question brought up a lot, and the most common and probably what I think is the best answer to this question: get 3 of Structure Deck, Starter Deck, X. In most cases people refer to the Dino Smasher's Fury one, as this is currently still a very prevalent deck in the meta, with Miscellaneousaurus dodging the last ban list. Also, Shaddol Showdown, which came out earlier this year, is a very good contender, as Shaddol does give you a good basis to tech a few things into that. And also the Soul Burner one with Salamangrate, as this deck does contain a good amount of good staples, and also with Salamangrate still being a good deck. But what are the benefits of starting with 3 structure decks? Well, first of all, you do get a rather concise card pool that follows the same strategy. You do have those 120, most structure decks contain 40 cards around it. You do have those 120-ish cards that all focus on accomplishing the same strategy, and it basically teaches you basic deck building premises. The importance of running your better cards in threes, and also just working with a limited card pool. Increasing your deck's consistency by running that card more often than that card, because you might want to see it, and all those things. Which is probably one of the biggest benefits of starting with 3 starter and structure decks, because you get these cards in a rather pre-constructed manner, but in the end you do have some individual decision making to do, because it's still up to you how you put these 3 structure decks together. And if you hand 2 or 3 players the same structure deck 3 times, most likely those 3 players will construct decks that are different from each other, because they have either different opinions or just different ways to build their decks. And that is something you do learn rather early when you get into the game with 3 starter or structure decks. In general, I think you can pick up any starter or structure deck that you think is cool. Maybe you see the cover monster and are like, damn, that's the one. That's what I want to play. That's what I want to use as kind of my ace monster, as the best card in a structure deck is most likely one printed on the cover. So you can definitely look into that. But just the 3 I mentioned with Dino Smasher's Fury, Shaddol Showdown, and the Soul Burner structure deck are probably the best ones in terms of bang for your buck and in terms of long-term viability. Then something I do not see brought up as much, because this is more my own kind of idea in all this. You could also start by picking up a deck that is rather simple and also rather cheap, with a lot of reprints, and in general just with a lot of the decks that contain mostly commons, because there's a few of them. You do have a very small price point to enter. Just as I think I showed in a deck profile for Shinobirds and for Crawlers on my channel, those decks most likely will not cost you more than 10 to 15 euros. And those are decks that teach you a mechanic of the game: Shinobirds ritual summoning, and Crawlers just link summoning, in a rather simple and digestive manner, that someone who basically just read the rulebook and is getting into the game can definitely understand. The problem with starting with such a deck, something I do see myself, because you would need to kind of look into how does my local card marketplace website work. That would be TCG Player for the US, or maybe Card Market for the EU. Those are the big 2 regions when speaking about the game in our hemisphere. But in general, starting with a deck that is as simple as maybe Shino Birds or Crawlers, maybe even Time Thieves, is something you can consider. I do have deck profiles for all three decks on the channel. You can definitely look into those and maybe work on those in your own time with the next point, online simulators. Kind of an open secret. To be honest, Konami doesn't like us testing in online simulators. So, you do have the option of downloading Adobe Pro. There's a official Discord for that, which contains all the download links, all the data you need, and also the staff on there is rather helpful. And if you do have questions, you can definitely turn to those guys. If you get a bit more into it, Dueling Book is probably an option that many veteran players take, who wanna have that classic card game feel of being able to move the cards around freely, declare effects, and just work with knowledge of not only your own deck, but also how the rules work. Because Dueling Book is not automated, but Adobe Pro is, which is why I would recommend everyone who starts the game to first just download Adobe Pro, play on there, work on your deck, because a very simple thing to do is to just maybe look into what structure deck you want to get, look at the card list, put something together in Adobe Pro, and from there just go about it with that. And maybe test that online, test that against your friends, if you do have friends that play Yu-Gi-Oh! And just look into it, and if you have a list that you feel comfortable with, you can then invest into the cards and look into getting the deck for real. But yeah, talking about friends is probably a point that is self-explanatory. Everything is more fun when you have friends with you, or you just have someone that you share your passion with and can constantly hook up with to maybe playtest or just in general have some casual duels. In general, I would think the subreddit, as I've seen quite a few posts just asking for people who are up for progression series or just anything else. Either the r/Yu-Gi-Oh, the main subreddit, or r/Yu-Gi-Oh 101 are definitely places you can turn to if you are looking for either just players in general, or in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh 101, maybe even newer players like you that could use someone who's also new, who could learn the game alongside them. But I'm sure in general every online forum will treat you just as good, and yeah, just try your luck. And the last point, which is something that I think in general is quite obvious and was kind of the goal of that game, maybe try a different format. The normal Yu-Gi-Oh format, the advanced format I think it's called, can be quite overwhelming for a new player. We do have the speed duel format, I think since earlier last year, and that is a simplified format. You do have a smaller field, you do play with skill cards instead of most of these extra deck cards. In general, the card pool contains more of the older cards and is a bit simpler. So that is a way to get into it. So maybe just try speed duels. And if you like speed duels, maybe then start looking into the advanced format. But what is also something that is possible when talking about speed duels is coming from Duel Links. And as something who and as someone who when getting back into the game had Duel Links play a rather significant role, to be honest. This is definitely a way you can get back into the card game. And in contrast to speed duels, Duel Links does contain a fair amount of newer slash just in general more modern cards. Duel Links is in the state it's currently in, it's more archetype based and not as generic just mash something good together. Um, which is probably something that can definitely prepare you for the modern environment of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of decks being mostly archetypes and just that duelings has gotten a lot faster. And you do special summon a lot, you do have some combos. They may be not as long as in the TCG, because of the limited deck size and the way duelings works. Um, but yeah, that would be probably how in general I would advise someone starting Yu-Gi-Oh! You can definitely pick, as mentioned, the first point. Pick the approach of 3 starter slash structure decks, as this is probably the easiest one, and also probably the best one. As mentioned, it will just teach you basic deck building, it will give you a neat card pool to work with, you do not have to worry about some staples, because many structure decks nowadays contain some rather good staple cards that you can put in your other decks if you decide to stick around. If you wanna maybe just start off right with an archetype, you can definitely maybe ask around. As I've mentioned, Shinobirds, Crawlers, or even Time Thieves are rather simple decks that teach you one of the mechanics in the game in, I think, a very digestible manner. But you will have to figure out how to navigate TCG player, card market, depending on where you live. Um, yeah, but in general, that is also some approach you can take, and I cannot stress the importance of online simulators. I think not a single person, not one of us would be as invested in the game if he had not, if the ability to test online and just look into, is this deck fun, is this deck something for me, before investing into it. Which could also be something, if you want to start playing the game, look into the online simulators first. Just download Edo Pro, as mentioned. I'll probably have the Discord link below. And just start playing. Test a bit around, maybe online, maybe ask a few people in the Discord if they are up for some duels. Which is the next part. Make friends. Just look for people, maybe you have someone in your already existing friend group, maybe you just grab a few people online that you might wanna duel or playtest with, just see how it's working. Maybe you'll find someone. And also, the last point, maybe look into speed duels, get duel links. Both, I think, valid options to see if Yu-Gi-Oh! Is something for you. As mentioned, Duel Links is a different format as well as speed duels. Maybe see if the general style of the game is something that you find appealing, and if you do, maybe look into the normal format. But this will be it for my guide on how to get into Yu-Gi-Oh! I will thank you guys very much for watching. Definitely leave a like, comment, subscribe, share this video, as this should get out there. And I will thank you guys very much for watching, and I will hope to see you guys next time. But until then, goodbye.